how to reset your life completely. Your life feels stuck on autopilot, and you can't remember when you stopped driving. Every day blends into the next. Wake up, go through the motions, check the boxes, collapse into bed, repeat. You're busy but not fulfilled. Productive but not purposeful. Moving but not progressing. You look around at your life, the job, the routines, the relationships, the goals, and think, how did I get here? And more importantly, how do I get out? There's a nagging feeling that you're capable of so much more, but you're trapped in patterns that keep you small. Safe, maybe. Comfortable, definitely. But small. And small is slowly killing your spirit. You've tried to shake things up before. New habits, better routines, different goals. But somehow you keep ending up in the same place, going through the motions of a life that feels more like a well-organized prison than freedom. The problem isn't that you're lazy or unmotivated. The problem is that you've been making surface-level changes to a life that needs foundational reconstruction. January 2026, another year, another chance to get it right. But this time, something feels different. You're not looking for incremental improvements or minor tweaks. You're ready for a complete reset. While you've been drowning in a life that doesn't serve you, she exists. You know her. That woman who completely changed course at 35 and built something that actually matters to her. Your friend who walked away from the perfect career and created work that energizes instead of drains her. The colleague who stopped trying to make everyone else happy and started making herself proud. She wasn't smarter, braver, or more privileged. She just got tired of wearing a life that didn't fit. And one day, instead of trying to tailor the sleeves and adjust the hemline, she took the whole damn thing off and started over. Here's what most people don't understand about life transformation. The problem isn't that you're doing things wrong. The problem is that you're doing the wrong things really well. You've optimized a strategy that was never going to work. You've perfected a routine that's moving you further from who you actually are. You've achieved success by metrics that don't measure what matters to you. The exhaustion you feel? It's not from working hard. It's from working against your own grain every single day. The anxiety that follows you everywhere? It's not because you can't handle pressure. It's because you're constantly trying to force yourself into shapes you were never meant to take. The emptiness that no amount of achievement seems to fill? It's not because you're ungrateful or broken. It's because you're succeeding at someone else's definition of success. Here's what you've probably already tried. Better time management, more efficient routines, positive thinking, self-care strategies, mindfulness practices, goal-setting frameworks, productivity hacks, therapy to help you cope with a life you never chose. These things work when you're trying to improve a life that fundamentally serves you. But when you're trying to improve a life that's fundamentally misaligned, they're like putting premium gas in a car that's driving in the wrong direction. You'll get there faster, but you'll still end up in the wrong place. The self-help industry has sold you the lie that you need to fix yourself to fit your life. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is that you're trying to live someone else's blueprint? You can't therapy your way out of the wrong career. You can't meditate your way out of misaligned relationships. You can't positive think your way out of a life that fundamentally doesn't serve who you are. You need reconstruction, not renovation. This isn't about becoming a different person. This is about becoming who you actually are when you strip away everyone else's expectations, cultural programming, and inherited definitions of success. Your authentic self isn't hiding. She's just buried under layers of shoulds, supposed tos, and what will people thinks. She's the one who gets excited about things that don't make sense to your family, the one who has ideas that feel too risky, too weird, too different, the one who knows what energizes you but keeps getting shouted down by the one who knows what's practical. Here's the truth. Practical is killing you slowly. Not dramatically, not obviously, but steadily. Like trying to breathe through a straw. You can survive, but you can't thrive. The woman who seems naturally confident and purposeful. She's not naturally anything. She just decided to stop suffocating herself with other people's ideas of who she should be. She stopped trying to make an incompatible life work and started building a compatible one instead. This book contains 8 systematic strategies for complete life reconstruction, not surface-level improvements to a broken foundation, total realignment from the ground up. Strategy 1. Clear mental clutter to see what you actually want. Cut through the noise in your head to hear your authentic voice. Strategy 2. Stop living for everyone else's definition of success. Identify and reject inherited success metrics that don't serve you. Strategy 3. Release what's not working. Instead of trying to fix it, learn the difference between optimization and elimination. Strategy 4. Design your life around your energy, not your obligations. Stop managing time and start managing energy. Strategy 5. Create boundaries that actually protect your peace. Use boundaries as self-respect in action. Strategy 6. Build routines that support who you're becoming. Design daily structures that amplify instead of drain. Strategy 7. Choose direction over perfection in your life. Rebuild. Move with commitment rather than certainty. Strategy 8. Live like the person you're becoming. Complete identity integration and sustainable alignment. This isn't about burning everything down in some dramatic life explosion. This is about conscious reconstruction. Strategic realignment. Building a life that fits your actual shape instead of trying to change your shape to fit an inherited life. The reset I'm talking about isn't destruction, it's liberation. When your life actually matches who you are, everything gets easier. Not because the challenges disappear, but because you're finally working with your nature instead of against it. Decisions become clearer because you're choosing from your authentic values, not inherited programming. Relationships improve because you're showing up as yourself instead of who you think people need you to be. Work becomes energizing because you're aligned with your actual strengths and interests. You stop feeling like you're swimming upstream because you're finally swimming in the right direction. But here's what this requires: the courage to disappoint people who are invested in the old version of you. Your family might not understand why you're changing course. Your friends might question your choices. Society might label your decisions as irresponsible, selfish, or unrealistic. Let them. Their approval of your authentic choices is not required for your authentic happiness. The people who truly love you will adapt to who you're becoming. The ones who can't were more invested in controlling you than supporting you anyway. You've been living with a low-grade fever for so long you forgot what healthy feels like. You've been wearing shoes that pinch for so long you think foot pain is normal. You've been breathing through a straw for so long you think shortness of breath is just how life is, but it's not. When you're living in alignment with your authentic self, energy flows naturally. Decisions feel clear, relationships become more genuine, work feels engaging rather than draining. You stop forcing yourself to care about things that don't matter to you and start investing in what does. You wake up excited instead of exhausted. You make choices from desire rather than obligation. You build relationships based on genuine connection rather than performance. You create work that energizes rather than depletes you. This isn't a fantasy. This is what happens when you stop trying to optimize an incompatible life and start building a compatible one. The woman living this reality, she wasn't born different. She just got tired of pretending that someone else's blueprint was going to work for her unique design. She stopped asking, "How can I fit better into this life?" and started asking, "How can I build a life that fits me?" That question changes everything. Because when you stop trying to contort yourself to fit an inherited shape and start designing a shape that honors your actual form, life becomes sustainable instead of exhausting. This is your permission slip to stop living for an audience and start living for alignment. Your permission slip to stop trying to fit into a life that doesn't serve you and start building one that does. Your permission slip to take off the coat that never fit and design one that's actually your size. 2026 doesn't have to look like 2025. You don't have to repeat the same patterns, chase the same misaligned goals, or continue wearing the same ill-fitting life. You can reset completely, strategically, authentically. The life that fits is waiting for you to have the courage to claim it. Ready to stop wearing someone else's life? Let's build yours. Chapter 1. Clear mental clutter to see what you actually want. Your mind is like a phone with 847 tabs open, 3 different music apps playing at once, and 12,000 unread notifications screaming for attention. No wonder you can't think straight about what you actually want from life. Most women are walking around with mental clutter they've been accumulating for years without even realizing it. Other people's expectations playing on repeat. Old limiting beliefs that made sense once but don't serve you now. Unprocessed emotions taking up valuable mental real estate. Decisions you've been avoiding that keep circling back to demand attention. Your mind wasn't meant to be a storage unit for every thought, worry, and obligation that's ever entered your awareness. But that's exactly what it's become. And until you clear that clutter, you can't hear your authentic voice. You can't access your genuine desires. You can't see what you actually want because the signal is lost in all the noise. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in complete silence and asked yourself what you actually want? Not what you should want, not what would make other people happy, not what fits the timeline you've been given or the expectations you've inherited. What you want. If the answer doesn't come immediately, that's not because you don't know. It's because the signal is being drowned out by mental chaos. Let me tell you about Rebecca. Rebecca came to me feeling completely lost about her life direction. At 34, she was successful by every external measure. Good job, nice apartment, active social life, healthy relationship. But when I asked her what she actually wanted for her life, she stared at me like I'd asked her to solve quantum physics. I don't know, she said. I feel like I should know, but I just don't. But here's what was really happening. Rebecca's mind was so crowded with mental clutter that her authentic desires couldn't break through. She was carrying her mother's voice telling her she needed to be more practical, her ex-boyfriend's criticism about her being too ambitious, her college advisor's opinion that she should play it safe, her own harsh inner critic cataloging every mistake she'd ever made, her friends' expectations about what success should look like, her social media feed's constant suggestions about who she should be. No wonder she couldn't hear her own voice. The mental committee was too loud. Rebecca's first step wasn't figuring out what she wanted. It was clearing out the mental noise so she could actually hear herself think. Here's what most people don't understand about mental clarity. It's not something you find. It's something you create by removing what's blocking it. Your authentic desires aren't missing. They're just buried under layers of mental clutter that you've been too busy to notice, too overwhelmed to address, and too conditioned to question. The mental clutter audit. Start by identifying what's actually taking up space in your head. Most people have no idea how much mental energy they're spending on things that don't serve them. Old programming. These are the beliefs you inherited without choosing them. Women should be nice. Success means working 60 hours a week. You can't have it all. Money doesn't grow on trees. You're not creative. Most of these beliefs were installed when you were young and have been running in the background ever since, influencing every decision you make. Other people's voices. Every opinion someone has ever shared about your life choices, your potential, your limitations, your family's concerns about your unconventional ideas, your friends' judgments about your priorities, society's expectations about what you should want at your age. These voices get so loud that you mistake them for your own thoughts. Unfinished business. Every decision you've been avoiding, conversation you've been postponing, task you've been putting off. These create what psychologists call open loops, incomplete cycles that your brain keeps trying to close. Every open loop takes mental energy, even when you're not consciously thinking about it. Emotional debris. Feelings you've pushed down instead of processing. Grief you haven't allowed yourself to feel. Anger you've never expressed appropriately. Disappointment you've never acknowledged. These emotions don't disappear when you ignore them. They just get stored in your mental closet, taking up space and influencing your decisions from the shadows. Future anxiety. all the what-if scenarios your mind generates about things that haven't happened and probably never will. What if the economy crashes? What if you make the wrong choice? What if you fail? What if you succeed and can't handle it? This kind of mental time travel keeps you stuck in scenarios that don't exist while missing the life that does. Here's the thing about mental clutter. Just like physical clutter, you can't organize your way out of it. You have to let it go. The mental decluttering process. Step 1. Notice without judgment. Spend 1 week simply observing what thoughts show up repeatedly in your mind. Don't try to change them or judge them, just notice. I'm thinking about what Mom said about my career again. I'm replaying that argument from 3 years ago. I'm worrying about something that might happen next year. Awareness is the first step to freedom. Step 2. Challenge the source. For each recurring thought pattern, ask, where did this thought come from? Who told me this? Is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this even my thought, or am I carrying someone else's opinion? You don't have to believe every thought that shows up in your head. Thoughts are mental events, not absolute truths. Step 3. Feel and release. For emotional clutter, you can't think your way out. You have to feel your way through. Set aside time to actually process the emotions you've been avoiding. Cry about the disappointments. Feel angry about the injustices. Grieve the losses. Emotions have a natural life cycle when you allow them to flow instead of forcing them underground. Step 4. Close open loops. Make a list of everything you've been avoiding: decisions, conversations, tasks, commitments. You don't have to do everything at once, but commit to addressing 1 item per week. The goal is to stop carrying the mental weight of unfinished business. Step 5. Create mental boundaries. Start protecting your mental space like you would protect your home. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every worry deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your consideration. Learn to say no to mental inputs that don't serve your clarity. Here's what happened when Rebecca completed this process. 3 months later, she told me it was like someone had turned up the brightness in her life. The constant background noise of mental chatter had quieted down enough for her to hear herself think. And what she discovered surprised her. She didn't want the promotion she'd been working toward. She wanted to start her own business. She didn't want to live in the city forever. She wanted to move somewhere she could have a garden. She didn't want to wait until she was ready to travel. She wanted to plan a sabbatical year. None of these desires were new. They'd been there all along, waiting under the mental clutter for space to emerge. But here's what was even more powerful. Rebecca stopped feeling guilty about wanting things that didn't fit other people's expectations. She stopped second-guessing herself every time she made a decision. She stopped asking for permission from everyone else before trusting her own judgment. The mental clarity didn't just reveal what she wanted, it revealed that she had the right to want it. This is what happens when you clear mental clutter. You don't just find your authentic desires, you find your authentic authority, the inner knowing that you're allowed to trust yourself, make your own choices, and live your own life. The mental clarity maintenance system. Clearing mental clutter isn't a one-time project, it's an ongoing practice, like keeping your house clean. Daily. Spend 5 minutes before bed mentally clearing the deck. Notice what thoughts and worries you've picked up during the day and consciously release what isn't serving you. Weekly. Review what's been taking up mental space and ask if it deserves the real estate. Are you carrying concerns that aren't yours? Replaying conversations that are over? Worrying about outcomes you can't control? Monthly. Do a deeper audit of your mental programming. What beliefs have you been operating from? Which ones serve your growth and which ones keep you small? Quarterly. Assess whether you're accumulating new mental clutter faster than you're clearing it. Are you taking on too many opinions? Consuming too much information? Avoiding too many decisions? The goal isn't to have a completely quiet mind. That's not realistic or even desirable. The goal is to have a mind that's working for you instead of against you. A mind that supports your growth instead of sabotaging it. A mind that amplifies your authentic voice instead of drowning it out. A mind that generates clarity instead of confusion. When your mental space is clear, something remarkable happens. You start making decisions from your authentic self instead of your conditioned self. You stop asking, "What should I want?" and start knowing what you actually want. Your desires become clearer because they're not competing with everyone else's noise. Your direction becomes obvious because you're not trying to navigate through mental fog. Your choices become easier because you're choosing from your authentic values instead of inherited programming. Most importantly, you stop treating your own desires as selfish, unrealistic, or unworthy of consideration. You realize that knowing what you want isn't narcissistic, it's necessary. You can't create a life that serves you if you don't know what that looks like. You can't make good decisions if you can't access your genuine preferences. You can't build authentic relationships if you don't know your authentic self. You can't contribute your unique gifts if they're buried under everyone else's expectations. Mental clarity isn't a luxury. It's the foundation of everything else. This is the foundation of a complete life reset, a clear mind that can finally see what's true for you. Once you know what you actually want, the rest becomes possible. But first, you have to clear the mental space for that knowing to emerge. You have to quiet the committee in your head so your authentic voice can be heard. That voice has been waiting patiently for you to create the conditions where it can finally speak. It's time to listen. Chapter 2. Stop living for everyone else's definition of success. You've been climbing ladders so efficiently that you never stopped to ask if they were leaning against the right wall. And now you're at the top, looking around, wondering why the view doesn't match what you thought success would look like. Here's the brutal truth. You can achieve everything that everyone else considers successful and still feel like a failure. You can check every box on society's achievement list and still feel empty. You can win at someone else's game and lose at your own life. That's because most women are pursuing success definitions they inherited, not ones they chose. Your parents' definition of a good life, your culture's expectations for women your age, your social circle's benchmarks for making it, your industry's metrics for achievement. Social media's highlight reel of what winning looks like. You've been so busy trying to succeed according to external standards that you never developed internal ones. And external success without internal alignment doesn't create fulfillment. It creates successful misery. Let me tell you about Amanda. By every external measure, Amanda had won at life. Corner office, 6-figure salary, luxury apartment, designer wardrobe, impressive social life, beautiful Instagram feed. She was the woman other women envied, the success story her family bragged about, the friend everyone asked for career advice. She was also dying inside. Every morning, she'd lie in bed for an extra 10 minutes gathering the energy to face another day of a life that looked perfect but felt hollow. She'd accomplished everything she was supposed to want, but none of it brought the satisfaction she'd been promised. The promotion she'd worked 3 years to get, it meant longer hours doing work that bored her. The apartment she'd saved for, it felt like an expensive prison. The lifestyle she'd built, it required so much maintenance that she had no energy left for anything that actually mattered to her. Amanda had succeeded brilliantly at someone else's definition of success and failed completely at her own because she'd never taken the time to define what success meant to her. The breakthrough came when Amanda asked herself a question that changed everything. If nobody was watching, if nobody would judge me, if nobody's approval mattered, what would success look like for me? The answer surprised her. It wasn't a bigger salary or a fancier title or a more impressive address. It was energy, waking up excited about her day instead of dreading it. It was contribution, doing work that felt meaningful instead of just profitable. It was connection, having relationships based on who she actually was instead of who she performed to be. It was freedom, making choices from her authentic values instead of inherited expectations. None of these showed up on the traditional success checklist, but they were what actually mattered to her. Here's what most people don't understand about success. There's no universal definition that works for everyone. Success is deeply personal, and what creates fulfillment for one person can create misery for another. Some people thrive on competition, others on collaboration. Some find meaning in building empires, others in nurturing communities. Some are energized by spotlight leadership, others by behind-the-scenes impact. Some value security and stability, others adventure and risk. There's no right or wrong. There's only what's right for you. But here's the problem. We're so conditioned to pursue externally validated success that most women never take the time to figure out what internally satisfying success would look like. The Success Programming Audit. Before you can define authentic success for yourself, you need to identify the programming you've inherited. Most success definitions were installed without your conscious consent. Family programming. What did your parents believe about money, career, relationships, achievement? What did they praise you for as a child? What did they worry about? Their definitions of success often become your default settings, even if they don't match your natural inclinations. Cultural programming. Every culture has specific expectations for what women should achieve and how they should achieve it. Some cultures prioritize family success, others individual achievement. Some value conformity, others innovation. These cultural blueprints influence your definition of success, whether you realize it or not. Gender programming. Society has specific ideas about what success looks like for women. You're supposed to be ambitious, but not too aggressive. Successful, but not threatening. Independent, but not selfish. These contradictory messages create internal conflict about what you're allowed to want. Generational programming. Your generation has particular success markers that feel mandatory. Millennials were told they needed college degrees and corporate careers. Gen X was told they needed to have it all. Each generation inherits specific definitions of winning. Industry programming. Every profession has its own success metrics: money, status, recognition, influence. If you work in finance, success might mean making partner. If you work in nonprofit, success might mean social impact, but industry standards might not align with your personal values. Social media programming. The highlight reels you consume daily create unconscious benchmarks for what life should look like. The vacations you should take, the homes you should live in, the relationships you should have, the achievements you should celebrate. Here's the key question: how many of these definitions did you actually choose? Most women are pursuing success definitions they inherited by accident, not ones they selected on purpose. Designing your authentic success definition. Real success isn't about achieving more. It's about achieving what actually matters to you. Start with energy. What activities, environments, and challenges energize you versus drain you? Success should create energy, not consume it. If your current definition of success requires you to consistently act against your natural grain, it's not your definition, it's someone else's. Consider your natural strengths. What are you genuinely good at, not just trained to do? What comes easily to you that others struggle with? Authentic success builds on your natural abilities rather than forcing you to excel in areas that don't suit you. Think about your core values. What principles matter most to you? Freedom, security, creativity, service, adventure, family, impact, learning. Your success definition should align with your values, not conflict with them. Reflect on your energy patterns. Are you energized by leading or supporting, creating or implementing, collaborating or working independently, building systems or breaking them down? Your ideal success should match your natural work style. Consider your definition of contribution. How do you want to make a difference? Through big, visible impact or quiet, personal influence? Through innovation or tradition? Through challenge or nurture? Success should allow you to contribute in ways that feel meaningful to you. Amanda's authentic success definition looked completely different from her inherited one. Instead of climbing the corporate ladder, she wanted to build her own business. Instead of accumulating status symbols, she wanted financial freedom. Instead of networking for advancement, she wanted genuine community. Instead of optimizing her performance, she wanted to honor her energy cycles. Most importantly, instead of proving herself to others, she wanted to be proud of herself. The shift wasn't just philosophical, it was practical. Amanda left her corporate job and started consulting in her field. She took a 40% pay cut initially, but gained 400% more life satisfaction. She moved to a smaller apartment that cost less but felt like home. She stopped networking and started building real relationships. 2 years later, her consulting business was more profitable than her corporate salary had been. More importantly, she woke up excited about her work instead of dreading it. The difference wasn't what she achieved. The difference was that she was achieving things that actually mattered to her. The success realignment process. You don't have to blow up your life to realign with authentic success. You can make strategic adjustments that gradually move you toward what actually fulfills you. Start with awareness. Notice when you feel energized versus drained by your current pursuits. Which achievements feel satisfying and which feel empty? Your energy is giving you data about what's aligned and what's not. Question inherited metrics. For each success goal you're pursuing, ask, who told me this was important? Does this align with my values? Does achieving this energize or exhaust me? Experiment with small changes. You don't have to make dramatic life changes immediately. Start by adjusting your current situation to better match your authentic definition. If collaboration energizes you, find ways to work more collaboratively. If creativity feeds you, build creative elements into your current role. Protect your redefinition. Once you start clarifying your authentic success definition, protect it from external pressure. People who are invested in the old version of you will resist your evolution. Stay connected to what truly matters to you, not what others think should matter. Here's what most people fear about redefining success. They think it means giving up achievement, lowering standards, or becoming less ambitious. But that's not what authentic success means. It means becoming more strategic about what you achieve. It means raising your standards for what deserves your energy. It means becoming ambitious about what actually matters to you. The most successful women I know aren't the ones who achieved everything on society's checklist. They're the ones who got clear about their own definition of success and pursued that with single-minded focus. They stopped trying to win at everyone else's game and started playing their own game. And because they were playing a game aligned with their natural strengths and genuine desires, they didn't just succeed, they dominated. When your definition of success aligns with your authentic self, achievement becomes sustainable instead of exhausting. You stop burning out because you're no longer working against your natural grain. You stop feeling empty after accomplishments because you're pursuing things that genuinely fulfill you. You start succeeding at your own life instead of someone else's idea of what your life should look like, and that's when success finally feels like success. The biggest risk isn't failing at someone else's dream. The biggest risk is succeeding at it and realizing it was never yours to begin with. Chapter 3. Release what's not working instead of trying to fix it. You can't improve your way out of the wrong relationship, wrong job, or wrong life direction. Sometimes the answer isn't better. Sometimes the answer is different. But most women have been conditioned to believe that giving up on anything makes them a quitter, that walking away from something they've invested time, energy, or money into means they're weak, impractical, or incapable of commitment. So they stay, and they optimize, and they try harder, and they exhaust themselves attempting to make fundamentally misaligned situations work. They treat every problem like a puzzle that can be solved with enough effort, patience, and creative thinking. They believe that if they just find the right approach, develop the right skills, or maintain the right attitude, they can make anything work. But here's what they don't understand. Some things aren't meant to be fixed. They're meant to be released. There's a profound difference between a situation that needs improvement and a situation that needs elimination. The first can be optimized. The second needs to be honored for what it was and consciously released to make space for what could be. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer spent 5 years trying to fix her marriage. Not 5 years being married. 5 years actively, intentionally, exhaustingly trying to make it work. She read relationship books, scheduled weekly date nights, suggested couples therapy, improved her communication skills, adjusted her expectations, and tried to become the wife she thought he needed. She optimized her approach to conflict, refined her way of expressing needs, and perfected the art of compromise. She became an expert at relationship improvement strategies. What she couldn't become was happy. Because the fundamental issue wasn't that they were doing marriage wrong. The issue was that they were wrong for each other. They had different values about money, family, career, and lifestyle. They brought out each other's defensive patterns rather than supportive ones. They were both good people trying to force a connection that simply wasn't there. But Jennifer had been taught that love meant never giving up. That commitment meant pushing through difficulty. That successful relationships required work. And if hers wasn't working, she just needed to work harder. So she did. For 5 years. Until she was so exhausted from trying to fix something that was fundamentally broken that she could barely recognize herself. The breakthrough came when Jennifer's therapist asked her a question that changed everything. What if this relationship isn't broken? What if it's just not right for either of you? For the first time, Jennifer considered the possibility that some situations can't be fixed because they don't need fixing. They need ending. Not because anyone did anything wrong, not because anyone failed, but because what they had together wasn't sustainable for either of them, no matter how much effort they applied. 6 months after their divorce, Jennifer told me it felt like she'd been holding her breath for 5 years and could finally exhale. Her ex-husband felt the same way. They'd both been trying so hard to make something work that neither of them had space to acknowledge that it wasn't working for either of them. Here's what most people don't understand about release. It's not about failure. It's about discernment. It's about recognizing when your energy is being spent on maintenance rather than growth. When your effort is going toward trying to make something tolerable rather than helping something thrive. The fix versus release assessment. Not every difficult situation needs to be abandoned. Some genuinely do need more effort, better strategy, or different approach. The key is learning to distinguish between situations that are challenging but worth it and situations that are draining because they're fundamentally misaligned. Situations that usually benefit from fixing. Skills you're developing, learning curves are normal. Relationships with fundamentally compatible people going through temporary difficulty. Jobs that align with your values but need better systems or boundaries. Health challenges that can be improved with consistent effort. Financial situations that can be resolved with better planning and discipline. Situations that usually need releasing. Relationships where you consistently bring out each other's worst qualities. Jobs that require you to act against your core values daily. Goals you're pursuing because you think you should, not because you want to. Living situations that drain your energy faster than you can replenish it. Commitments you made from guilt, pressure, or outdated versions of yourself. The energy test. Does working on this situation energize you or deplete you? Challenging situations that are worth it typically generate energy through progress and growth. Situations that need releasing typically drain energy no matter how much effort you apply. The values test. Does this situation require you to consistently act against your core values? Some compromises are healthy, but if you're constantly betraying what matters most to you, the situation isn't fixable. It's incompatible. The growth test. Are you becoming a better version of yourself through this challenge, or are you becoming someone you don't recognize? Good challenges stretch you. Wrong challenges distort you. The progress test. When you apply effort, do you see genuine improvement over time, or do you end up back in the same patterns despite your best intentions? Fixable situations show progress with consistent effort. Situations that need releasing create the same problems repeatedly. The authenticity test. Can you be genuinely yourself in this situation, or do you constantly have to perform, hide, or modify who you are? Sustainable situations allow for authenticity. Unsustainable ones require constant performance. Sarah learned this lesson when she finally stopped trying to make her corporate job work for her. For 3 years, Sarah tried everything to make her marketing role sustainable. She negotiated for remote work, requested different projects, improved her time management, developed better boundaries with difficult colleagues, and even changed departments. She kept thinking the problem was that she hadn't found the right approach yet, but the real problem was that corporate marketing fundamentally didn't align with who she was. She was creative, but the role required following rigid brand guidelines. She was collaborative, but the culture was competitive. She valued work-life balance, but advancement required 60-hour weeks. She wanted to make a positive impact, but the products she was marketing didn't align with her values. No amount of optimization could resolve these fundamental mismatches. When Sarah finally quit to start her own business, her friends worried she was making a mistake. "You had such a good job," they said. "Why didn't you just try to make it work?" But Sarah had tried for 3 years. She'd exhausted every fix strategy available. What she finally realized was that some situations aren't problems to be solved. They're mismatches to be acknowledged and released. 2 years later, her business was thriving, and she felt more energized by work than she ever had in corporate, not because entrepreneurship was easier, but because it was aligned. The sunk cost trap. The biggest obstacle to releasing what's not working is the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that time, energy, or money already invested justifies continued investment, even when the situation isn't serving you. I've already spent 5 years in this relationship. I have so much money invested in this business. I went to school for this career. I've worked so hard to get where I am. But past investment doesn't obligate future investment. The time you've already spent is gone whether you stay or go. The question isn't what you've invested in the past, it's what you want to invest in going forward. Sometimes the best way to honor your past investment is to use the wisdom it gave you to make a different choice moving forward. The release process. Releasing what's not working isn't about dramatic exits or burning bridges. It's about conscious, respectful transitions that honor what was while creating space for what could be. Acknowledge what the situation gave you. Even wrong situations teach valuable lessons. Jennifer's marriage taught her what she actually needed in a partnership. Sarah's corporate job taught her what kind of work energized her. Honor the growth that came from experiences that didn't ultimately serve you. Identify the lessons. What did you learn about yourself, your values, your boundaries, your preferences? This learning is never wasted, even if the situation didn't work out. Release with gratitude, not resentment. You don't have to be grateful that things didn't work out, but you can be grateful for the clarity that came from the experience. Create space before filling it. Don't immediately rush into the next job, relationship, or commitment. Take time to integrate what you learned and get clear about what you actually want moving forward. Here's what most people fear about releasing what's not working. They think it means they wasted time, failed at commitment, or proved they can't handle difficulty. But release isn't failure. Release is wisdom. It's recognizing that your time, energy, and life are finite resources that deserve to be invested wisely. It's choosing to spend your effort on situations that can genuinely thrive rather than forcing life support on situations that are fundamentally unsustainable. The women who seem to have effortless success, they're not better at fixing difficult situations. They're better at recognizing when something isn't worth fixing and redirecting their energy toward what is. They don't waste years trying to force incompatible relationships to work. They don't exhaust themselves trying to love jobs that drain them. They don't spend decades pursuing goals that someone else convinced them to want. Instead, they get comfortable with releasing what doesn't serve them to make space for what does. This isn't about becoming flaky or commitment phobic. This is about becoming strategic with your life force. Some things are worth fighting for, others are worth walking away from. Learning the difference is one of the most important skills you can develop. The courage to release what's not working is actually the courage to trust that something better is possible. Chapter 4. Design your life around your energy, not your obligations. You have finite energy and infinite demands, and you've been approaching this equation backwards. Most women organize their lives around their obligations, leaving energy as an afterthought. They schedule everything they have to do, everyone they have to please, every commitment they've made, and then hope there's enough energy left over to actually enjoy their lives. There never is, because energy isn't unlimited. It's not something you can manufacture through willpower or positive thinking. It's not a character flaw when you run out of it. It's a finite resource that gets depleted through use and requires intentional replenishment. But instead of treating energy like the precious resource it is, most women treat it like it's supposed to be inexhaustible. They pack their schedules like energy is infinite. They say yes to obligations like energy is renewable. They push through exhaustion like energy is optional. And then they wonder why they feel drained, resentful, and disconnected from their own lives. Here's what changes everything. When you start designing your life around your energy instead of your obligations, you don't just feel better. You become more effective, more present, more authentic, and more sustainable. You stop surviving your life and start thriving in it. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was the woman everyone could count on. She volunteered for extra projects at work, hosted family gatherings, served on nonprofit boards, maintained an active social calendar, and somehow still managed to keep her house clean and her relationships healthy. From the outside, she looked like she had it all figured out. From the inside, she felt like she was drowning. Every day started with a mental calculation. How much energy do I have, and how many things do I need to do with it? The answer was always the same. Not enough energy for too many things. She'd wake up already behind, spend the day running from obligation to obligation, and collapse into bed, exhausted but unable to sleep, because her mind was racing with everything she still needed to do tomorrow. Sarah had organized her entire life around what she felt she should do, what other people needed her to do, and what she'd committed to doing in the past. Energy was never part of the equation until the day she couldn't get out of bed. Not because she was physically ill, but because her body and mind had finally said, no more. She'd depleted her energy reserve so completely that she had nothing left. That was Sarah's wake-up call. She realized she'd been managing time, but ignoring energy. She'd been optimizing productivity while destroying sustainability. The recovery process taught her something revolutionary. Energy isn't just about feeling good. Energy is the foundation of everything else. When you have energy, decisions are clearer, relationships are more satisfying, work feels engaging instead of draining, challenges feel manageable instead of overwhelming. You show up as your best self instead of a depleted version of yourself. But when you're running on empty, everything becomes harder. Simple decisions feel overwhelming. Good relationships become sources of stress. Meaningful work feels like drudgery. Small challenges feel insurmountable. Sarah learned that energy management isn't selfish, it's strategic. The energy audit. Before you can design your life around energy, you need to understand your unique energy patterns. Most women have never paid attention to what actually energizes versus drains them because they've been taught to push through regardless of how they feel. Energy givers. What activities, people, environments, and experiences naturally replenish your energy? For some women, it's creative work. For others, it's physical movement. Some find energy in social connection, others in solitude. Some are energized by learning, others by teaching. Your energy givers are deeply personal and don't have to make sense to anyone else. Energy drains. What consistently depletes your energy, even when you're doing it right? This isn't just about obviously draining things like toxic relationships or jobs you hate. Some energy drains are more subtle. Certain types of social events, specific kinds of work tasks, particular environments, or even activities that other people find energizing, but you find exhausting. Energy patterns. When during the day, week, and month do you have the most energy? When do you need recovery time? Some women are naturally energized in the morning, others in the evening. Some need daily solitude, others need weekly social connection. Some are energized by routine, others by variety. Energy boundaries. What are your early warning signs of energy depletion? Most women ignore these signals until they're completely depleted. Learning to recognize when your energy is getting low allows you to course correct before you crash. Sarah discovered that her natural energy pattern was completely opposite to how she'd been living. She was most creative in the morning, but had been using that time for email and administrative tasks. She was energized by deep, meaningful conversations, but spent most of her social time at large networking events that drained her. She needed 2 hours of solitude daily to recharge, but had been filling every moment with activities and obligations. Once Sarah understood her actual energy patterns, she started designing her life around them instead of against them. Energy-based life design. Designing your life around energy doesn't mean you never do anything challenging or uncomfortable. It means you're strategic about when and how you spend your energy so you can show up fully for what matters most. Schedule energy-giving activities when your energy is naturally low. Instead of pushing through exhaustion, plan replenishing activities during your natural energy dips. If you're always tired after lunch, that might be the perfect time for a walk or meditation, not for tackling your most demanding work. Protect your peak energy for your highest priorities. Your natural high energy times should be reserved for your most important or challenging work. Don't waste peak energy on low-value activities that could be done during lower energy times. Batch similar energy types. Group activities that require similar types of energy. If you need deep focus for creative work, batch those activities together instead of scattering them throughout the week. If social events drain you, don't schedule them back to back. Create transition rituals. Build in time and practices to shift between different types of energy demands. This might mean 5 minutes of breathing between meetings, a walk after work before starting evening activities, or a weekend morning ritual before family time. Plan recovery time. Energy replenishment shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be scheduled and protected like any other important appointment. Say no based on energy, not just time. Instead of asking, "Do I have time for this?" start asking, "Do I have the right kind of energy for this right now?" You might have 3 free hours, but if those hours coincide with your natural low energy time, saying yes to a demanding commitment will leave you depleted. After Sarah redesigned her life around energy instead of obligations, everything changed. She started her days with creative work when her energy was naturally high. She scheduled administrative tasks for her afternoon energy dip. She said no to networking events and yes to coffee dates with people she genuinely wanted to connect with. She stopped volunteering for committees that drained her and started contributing to causes in ways that energized her. She negotiated to work from home 2 days a week to reduce the energy drain of commuting and office politics. Most importantly, she stopped feeling guilty about protecting her energy. She realized that showing up depleted didn't serve anyone, not her family, her friends, her colleagues, or herself. When Sarah started showing up energized instead of exhausted, her relationships improved, her work quality increased, and her overall life satisfaction transformed. The energy protection system. Living in an energy-based way requires ongoing vigilance because the world is organized around productivity, not sustainability. Everyone wants your energy. Your boss, your family, your friends, your community. They're not trying to drain you maliciously. They're just focused on their own needs and deadlines. You have to become the guardian of your own energy. Learn to recognize energy requests disguised as time requests. This will only take 5 minutes, might be true in terms of time, but if it requires you to context switch from deep work, the energy cost is much higher than 5 minutes. Distinguish between energy investments and energy expenses. Some challenging activities are energy investments. They're difficult in the moment, but generate energy over time. Others are energy expenses. They deplete energy without creating more. Invest wisely. Create energy boundaries, not just time boundaries. I'm not available after 7 p.m. is a time boundary. I don't take work calls when I'm in creative mode is an energy boundary. Both are important. Communicate your energy needs clearly. Instead of saying, I can't, try, that doesn't work with my energy right now. Most people understand energy limitations better than arbitrary time restrictions. Here's what most women fear about prioritizing energy. They think it means becoming selfish, lazy, or unreliable. But energy-based living isn't about doing less. It's about being strategic with what you do so you can do it better. When you protect and manage your energy wisely, you have more to give, not less. You show up more fully, contribute more meaningfully, and sustain your efforts over time. The most impactful women I know aren't the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who've gotten masterful at saying yes to the right things and no to everything else. They understand that their energy is their most valuable resource and treat it accordingly. They don't waste it on activities that don't align with their priorities. They don't spend it on people who don't value it. They don't give it away freely just because someone asks. You can't pour from an empty cup. But most women's lives are specifically designed to ensure the cup stays empty. Energy-based life design changes that. It ensures your cup stays full enough to pour from generously and sustainably. That's not selfish. That's strategic. Chapter 5. Create boundaries that actually protect your peace. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're gates that let the right energy in and keep the wrong energy out. But most women have been taught to think of boundaries as mean, selfish, or relationship damaging. They've been conditioned to believe that being accommodating, flexible, and always available is what makes them good friends, daughters, employees, and partners. So they say yes when they mean no. They absorb other people's emotions as if they're responsible for managing them. They let conversations, commitments, and chaos flow into their lives without any filter whatsoever. And then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, resentful, and disconnected from their own needs. Here's what they don't understand. Boundaries aren't about controlling other people. They're about honoring yourself. They're not about being difficult. They're about being clear. They're not about building walls. They're about designing gates that protect what matters most to you while still allowing genuine connection and contribution. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria was everyone's favorite person to dump problems on. She was a good listener, always available, endlessly understanding, and she never said no when someone needed help. Friends called her at all hours to process their relationship drama. Family members expected her to coordinate gatherings and manage conflicts. Colleagues assumed she'd handle extra work because she never complained. Her partner relied on her to manage most of the emotional labor in their relationship. Maria thought this made her a good person. What it actually made her was exhausted, resentful, and disconnected from her own life. She was so busy managing everyone else's emotions that she had no bandwidth for her own. She was so available for other people's crises that she never had time to process her own challenges. She was so focused on keeping everyone else happy that she lost touch with what made her happy. Maria had confused boundaries with selfishness and availability with love. The wake-up call came when Maria realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd spent a weekend focused on something she wanted to do. Every free moment was filled with other people's needs, requests, and emergencies. She wasn't living her own life, she was managing everyone else's. That's when Maria learned the difference between being helpful and being used. Between being supportive and being a dumping ground. Between being generous with your energy and having no energy left for yourself. The boundary journey wasn't easy. When Maria started saying things like, I'm not available to talk tonight, or I can't take on that project right now, people reacted badly. Some friends got angry. Family members called her selfish. Colleagues questioned her commitment. Her partner accused her of becoming cold and distant. But here's what Maria discovered. The people who reacted negatively to her boundaries were exactly the people who had been benefiting from her lack of them. The people who truly cared about her well-being supported her journey toward healthier limits. The ones who got upset were revealed to be people who preferred her depleted and available rather than healthy and boundaried. That revelation was painful but necessary. 6 months later, Maria's life looked completely different. She had energy for her own interests and goals. Her relationships were more balanced and genuine. She felt proud of herself instead of resentful. Most importantly, she felt like she was living her own life instead of managing everyone else's. Understanding boundary types. Boundaries aren't one size fits all. Different situations require different types of protection, and what works in one relationship might not work in another. Time boundaries, protecting when you're available and when you're not. This includes work hours, weekend time, evening availability, vacation boundaries, and response time expectations. I check email twice a day, or I'm not available for calls after 8 p.m. are time boundaries. Energy boundaries. Protecting your emotional and mental bandwidth. This includes limiting heavy conversations during your low energy times, saying no to emotionally draining activities when you're already depleted, and choosing which emotional labor you take on. I don't have the emotional bandwidth for this conversation right now is an energy boundary. Physical boundaries. Protecting your physical space, comfort, and safety. This includes personal space preferences, physical affection limits, home space boundaries, and body autonomy. I need advance notice before people come over, or I'm not comfortable with unsolicited advice about my appearance, are physical boundaries. Emotional boundaries. Protecting yourself from taking on other people's emotions as your responsibility. This includes not feeling guilty about other people's reactions to your choices, not trying to manage other people's feelings, and not absorbing other people's moods as if they're your own. Your disappointment is not my emergency is an emotional boundary. Mental boundaries. Protecting your thoughts, opinions, and mental space. This includes not accepting criticism that isn't constructive, not letting other people define your reality, and maintaining your right to privacy about your thoughts and decisions. I'm not looking for advice about this is a mental boundary. Digital boundaries. Protecting your attention and peace from technology invasion. This includes social media limits, notification settings, response time expectations, and digital detox periods. I don't respond to work messages on weekends is a digital boundary. Jennifer learned to implement boundaries when she realized her lack of them was destroying her mental health. As a freelance consultant, Jennifer had fallen into the pattern of being available to clients 24/7. She answered emails at midnight, took calls on weekends, and accepted last-minute rush projects without additional compensation. She thought this made her a dedicated professional. What it actually made her was burned out and resentful. Jennifer's breakthrough came when she realized that her lack of boundaries wasn't serving her clients better. It was training them to be disrespectful of her time and energy. When she implemented clear boundaries around communication, project timelines, and availability, something unexpected happened. Her clients respected her more, not less. The clear structure actually improved their working relationship because everyone knew what to expect. Her work quality improved because she wasn't constantly exhausted. Her rates increased because she positioned herself as a professional with clear standards rather than someone who was always available. The boundary implementation process. Creating boundaries isn't about making dramatic pronouncements or having confrontational conversations. It's about gradually implementing clear, consistent limits that protect your well-being. Start with awareness. Notice when you feel resentful, overwhelmed, or like you're losing yourself in someone else's needs. These emotions are signals that boundaries are missing or being violated. Identify your non-negotiables. What do you absolutely need to protect your peace, energy, and well-being? These become your boundary foundations. Maybe you need one evening a week completely to yourself. Maybe you need advance notice before social plans. Maybe you need work to stay at work. Communicate clearly and kindly. Good boundaries are clear, specific, and consistent. Instead of "I'm busy," which implies you might not be busy another time, try "I'm not available for evening calls," which sets a clear expectation. Start small and build consistency. Don't try to implement every boundary at once. Start with 1 or 2 clear limits and maintain them consistently. Success with small boundaries builds confidence for bigger ones. Expect pushback and stay firm. People who have benefited from your lack of boundaries will test your new limits. This is normal and temporary. Consistency is what teaches people that your boundaries are real. Practice boundary phrases. Having language ready makes boundary setting easier. "That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. I need some time to think about it. That's not something I can help with right now." Release the need to justify. You don't need to provide elaborate explanations for your boundaries. The boundary itself is sufficient. No is a complete sentence. Sarah learned this when she finally set boundaries with her family's emotional drama. Sarah had been the family therapist, mediator, and emotional dumping ground for years. Every conflict, crisis, and complaint ended up in her lap to manage or solve. When Sarah started saying things like, "I'm not willing to be in the middle of this conflict," or "I care about both of you, but I can't fix this relationship for you," her family initially reacted with shock and hurt. But over time, something interesting happened. Without Sarah managing their emotional dynamics, family members started dealing with issues directly instead of triangulating through her. Relationships improved because people had to take responsibility for their own conflicts instead of expecting Sarah to mediate. Sarah went from being overwhelmed by family drama to having space for genuine, supportive relationships with family members who respected her boundaries. The peace protection system. Boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're about creating a life structure that protects your peace, energy, and authentic self while still allowing for meaningful connection and contribution. Regular boundary audits. Check in with yourself monthly about what's working and what isn't. Are there new boundary needs emerging? Are existing boundaries being respected? What adjustments are needed? Boundary repair. When boundaries get violated by others or by yourself, address it quickly. Don't let boundary violations accumulate or they become the new normal. Energy monitoring. Use your energy and mood as boundary indicators. If you consistently feel drained after certain interactions or activities, you may need stronger boundaries in those areas. Here's what most women fear about boundaries. They think they'll become isolated, selfish, or difficult to be around. But boundaries don't push away healthy relationships. They attract them. When you're clear about your limits, you create space for people who respect those limits. When you protect your energy, you have more energy to give generously. When you honor your own needs, you can support others from a place of abundance rather than depletion. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're self-respect in action. And self-respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship you'll ever have. Chapter 6. Build routines that support who you're becoming. Your daily routine is either moving you toward the life you want or keeping you trapped in the life you don't want. There's no neutral. Every morning ritual, every evening habit, every way you structure your days is either supporting your growth or sabotaging it, either amplifying your energy or draining it, either reinforcing the patterns that serve you or strengthening the ones that keep you stuck. Most women are living with routines designed for who they used to be, who they think they should be, or who everyone else needs them to be, not who they're becoming. They wake up and immediately check their phone, flooding their mind with other people's priorities before they've even remembered their own. They rush through morning routines focused on getting out the door rather than getting grounded for the day. They structure their evenings around collapsing from exhaustion rather than replenishing for tomorrow. These aren't routines, they're reaction patterns. And reaction patterns keep you stuck in the same place living the same day over and over, wondering why nothing ever changes. But when you intentionally design routines that support who you're becoming instead of who you've been, everything shifts. Your daily structure becomes the delivery system for the transformation you want. Let me tell you about Lisa. Lisa had been trying to become a writer for 3 years. She'd bought journals, attended workshops, and talked endlessly about the book she wanted to write. But despite all her enthusiasm and good intentions, she'd written exactly 0 pages. The problem wasn't lack of desire or ability. The problem was that Lisa's daily routine contained no space for writing. She'd wake up, immediately check social media, rush to get ready for work, spend 8 hours in back-to-back meetings, come home exhausted, make dinner, watch Netflix, and fall asleep scrolling on her phone. Every single day. Lisa kept waiting for motivation to strike, for a free weekend to appear, for the perfect moment when writing would feel natural and effortless. But motivation doesn't create routines. Routines create motivation. Lisa's breakthrough came when she realized she didn't need more time to write. She needed to design her existing time differently. Instead of checking social media first thing in the morning, Lisa started writing for 20 minutes before she did anything else. Instead of collapsing into Netflix every evening, she spent 30 minutes before bed reading books in her genre. Instead of hoping writing would somehow happen, Lisa built writing into the structure of her days. 6 months later, Lisa had completed the first draft of her novel. Not because she suddenly had more time or more motivation, but because she'd created a routine that made writing inevitable instead of optional. The routine versus ritual distinction. Most people think routines and rituals are the same thing, but they serve different purposes. Routines are the practical structures that organize your day efficiently. Getting dressed, eating meals, commuting to work, paying bills. Routines handle the logistics of life so you don't have to make a million small decisions every day. Rituals are meaningful practices that connect you to what matters most. Morning meditation, evening gratitude, weekly planning sessions, creative time. Rituals handle the spiritual and emotional aspects of life, keeping you aligned with your values and vision. The most powerful daily structures combine both practical routines that create efficiency and meaningful rituals that create connection to purpose. But here's where most women go wrong. They focus on optimizing routines for productivity while ignoring rituals for alignment. They become incredibly efficient at living lives that don't fulfill them. The identity-based routine design. Instead of asking, what should my routine be, start asking, what routine would someone living my ideal life have? If you want to be someone who feels calm and grounded, what would that person's morning look like? If you want to be someone who creates meaningful work, how would that person structure their day? If you want to be someone with deep relationships, what evening practices would support that? Design routines for the identity you want to grow into, not the identity you're trying to escape. Amanda learned this when she was trying to transition from corporate employee to entrepreneur, but couldn't seem to make the mental shift. Despite leaving her corporate job 6 months earlier, Amanda still felt like she was playing dress-up as an entrepreneur. She'd work from coffee shops trying to look busy, attend networking events where she felt like a fraud, and spend hours on activities that looked entrepreneurial but didn't actually build her business. The problem was that Amanda's daily routine still reflected her employee identity, not her entrepreneurial one. She'd wake up and immediately check email, waiting to see what other people needed from her. She'd spend hours perfecting presentations instead of having real conversations with potential clients. She'd work on tasks that felt busy, but didn't generate revenue or relationships. Amanda's transformation began when she designed a routine for someone who already was a successful entrepreneur. Successful entrepreneurs start their day by focusing on revenue-generating activities, not email management. They spend time daily connecting with people who could benefit from their services. They block time for strategic thinking, not just reactive task completion. When Amanda started structuring her days like someone who already was successful in business, she began acting like someone who was successful in business. Within 3 months, her revenue tripled. The routine created the identity, which created the results. The energy-aligned daily structure. Your routine should work with your natural energy patterns, not against them. Most women have never paid attention to when they naturally feel creative, focused, social, or reflective. They just push through whatever they've scheduled, regardless of whether their energy is aligned with the task. Map your natural energy rhythms. For 1 week, notice when during the day you feel most creative, most analytical, most social, and most tired. These patterns are your energy blueprint. Align activities with energy states. Schedule creative work during your natural creative peaks. Handle administrative tasks during lower energy times. Plan social activities when you naturally feel more outgoing. Use low energy times for reflective practices or routine tasks. Create energy transitions. Build brief transition practices between different types of activities. This might be 5 minutes of breathing between meetings, a short walk between work and family time, or music to shift from analytical to creative tasks. Honor energy cycles. Instead of fighting against your natural rhythms, design your routine to support them. If you're naturally more focused in the morning, protect that time for your most important work. If you're energized in the evening, that might be perfect for creative projects. Sarah discovered this when she realized her routine was fighting against every natural energy pattern she had. Sarah was most creative in the early morning, but had been using that time for email and news consumption. She was most social in the evening, but had been scheduling work calls during that time. She needed wind-down time before bed, but had been doing intense workouts late at night. When Sarah redesigned her routine to match her natural energy patterns, everything became easier. She started writing in the morning when her creativity was highest. She scheduled client calls in the afternoon when she felt naturally conversational. She replaced late-night workouts with gentle yoga and reading. The same activities, but aligned with her energy instead of fighting against it. The weekly and monthly rhythm design. Daily routines are important, but they need to exist within larger rhythms that support long-term sustainability and growth. Weekly rhythms. Design your week to include both challenge and recovery, social time and solitude, creative work and administrative tasks. Most women pack every day with the same type of energy demand, leading to burnout instead of balance. Monthly rhythms. Some activities and focuses work better on monthly cycles, monthly planning sessions, quarterly goal reviews, seasonal routine adjustments. Build larger view practices into your rhythm. Seasonal rhythms. Your routine might need to shift with the seasons, both literal and metaphorical. Winter might call for more introspective practices. Summer might support more social activities. Busy work seasons might require simplified personal routines. The routine evolution process. Your routine should evolve as you evolve. What supports you as a single person might not work when you're in a relationship. What serves you as an employee might not fit when you're an entrepreneur. What works in your 20s might drain you in your 40s. Regular routine audits. Every few months, assess whether your current routine is supporting or sabotaging your current goals and life situation. Gradual adjustments. Don't overhaul your entire routine at once. Make small, sustainable changes that you can maintain while building toward larger shifts. Identity alignment checks. As your identity evolves, check whether your routine still reflects who you're becoming or whether it's keeping you stuck in who you used to be. Jennifer learned this when she kept trying to maintain the routine that had served her as a single professional after she became a mother. The routine that had supported her career focus didn't work when she needed to integrate childcare, relationship nurturing, and different energy demands. Instead of trying to force the old routine to work, Jennifer designed a completely different structure that honored her current reality while still supporting her growth. The new routine looked nothing like the old one, but it served her much better in her current life phase. The sustainable practice framework. The best routine is the one you'll actually maintain long-term. Complicated, time-intensive routines might work for a week, but they won't survive real-life pressures. Start smaller than you think. It's better to do 10 minutes of meaningful practice daily than to plan for an hour practice that you'll abandon after a week. Build in flexibility. Life happens. Design routines that can adapt to changed circumstances rather than requiring perfect conditions. Focus on consistency over intensity. Daily small practices create more transformation than sporadic, intense efforts. Your routine is the architecture of your transformation. Build it thoughtfully, adjust it regularly, and watch it deliver the life you're growing toward. Chapter 7. Choose direction over perfection in your life. Rebuild confusion isn't lack of clarity, it's lack of commitment. Most women who say, "I don't know what to do," actually do know. They're just paralyzed by the gap between knowing and being certain, between having direction and having guarantees. They're waiting for the perfect plan before they make any plan, waiting for complete information before they make any decision, waiting for certainty about outcomes before they take any action. But here's what they don't understand. Perfect clarity is not the prerequisite for good decisions. Movement is. You can't think your way to certainty. You can only act your way there. Every successful woman you admire started with incomplete information, imperfect plans, and uncertain outcomes. None of them waited until they had it all figured out. They chose direction over perfection and adjusted course as they learned. The women who stay stuck aren't the ones who make wrong choices. They're the ones who don't make any choices at all. Let me tell you about Rachel. Rachel spent 2 years researching her perfect career transition. She read every book about career change, took personality assessments, informational interviews with dozens of professionals, analyzed job market trends, and created elaborate spreadsheets comparing different paths. She could tell you the average salary progression for every role she was considering, the exact skills required for each transition, the potential challenges and opportunities in every field. What she couldn't tell you was what she actually wanted to do. Because Rachel had confused research with decision-making, information gathering with commitment, analysis with action, she kept thinking that if she just gathered enough data, the right choice would become obvious. But no amount of research could answer the fundamental question. What do I want my life to feel like? That question can only be answered through experience, not analysis. Rachel's breakthrough came when she realized she'd been treating her life like a multiple-choice test, where only one answer was correct, instead of like a creative project where multiple approaches could work. Instead of trying to choose the perfect path, Rachel chose the path that felt most aligned with her values and started walking. She could always adjust direction as she learned more about what actually energized and fulfilled her. 6 months later, Rachel was working in nonprofit development, a field that hadn't even been on her original research list. But the skills she developed in her previous career translated beautifully. The mission aligned with her values, and the work felt meaningful in ways she couldn't have predicted from research alone. The perfect path she'd been researching would have been wrong for her. The direction she chose led her somewhere better. The paralysis of perfect planning. Most women have been taught that good decisions require exhaustive research, careful analysis, and detailed planning. They think that uncertainty means they haven't done enough work to prepare. But uncertainty isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Life is inherently uncertain. Markets change, industries evolve, personal circumstances shift. What looks like the perfect plan today might be completely irrelevant in 2 years. The women who succeed aren't the ones who predict the future accurately. They're the ones who adapt skillfully to whatever future actually emerges. They understand that direction beats perfection because direction can evolve. Perfect plans are brittle. They break when circumstances change. But clear direction is flexible. It can bend and adjust while still moving you forward. The direction versus destination mindset. Most women approach major life decisions like they're planning a vacation to a specific destination. They need to know exactly where they're going, exactly how they'll get there, and exactly what they'll find when they arrive. But life change works more like hiking in unfamiliar territory. You need a general direction, but the specific path reveals itself as you walk. You adjust your route based on what you discover along the way. Destination. Thinking. I need to know exactly what job I want before I start looking. Direction, thinking. I want work that feels meaningful and uses my strengths. I'll explore opportunities that move me in that direction. Destination, thinking. I need to know exactly how my business will work before I start it. Direction, thinking. I want to solve this problem for people. I'll start helping them and figure out the business model as I go. Destination thinking. I need to know exactly what my life will look like after this change. Direction, thinking. I want to feel more aligned and energized. I'll make choices that move me toward that feeling. Direction thinking allows for discovery, adaptation, and growth. Destination. Thinking creates pressure for certainty that doesn't exist. Jennifer learned this when she spent 8 months trying to plan her perfect business launch. Jennifer wanted to start a consulting practice, but felt overwhelmed by all the decisions she thought she needed to make first. What services exactly? What pricing model? What target market? What marketing strategy? What business structure? She created business plans, researched competitors, designed service packages, built websites, and crafted marketing materials. But she never actually talked to a potential client because her offer wasn't ready yet. Jennifer was treating business building like destination planning when it's actually direction walking. When Jennifer finally started having conversations with people about their challenges, everything changed. She discovered that the problems she thought she could solve weren't the ones people most wanted help with. The service packages she'd designed weren't structured in ways that felt valuable to her market. But those conversations also revealed opportunities she never could have planned for. Client needs she was uniquely positioned to meet, referral sources she hadn't known existed, partnership possibilities she couldn't have imagined. 6 months after she stopped planning and started doing, Jennifer had a thriving practice that looked nothing like her original business plan, but served both her and her clients much better. The strategic commitment process. Choosing direction over perfection doesn't mean making random choices or avoiding planning altogether. It means making strategic commitments based on alignment rather than perfect information. Start with values alignment. Instead of asking, "What's the perfect choice?" ask, "What choice aligns with my core values?" Values-based decisions can be made without perfect information because they're based on what matters to you, not what you can predict. Focus on reversible decisions. Most decisions are more reversible than we think. You can change careers, end relationships, move cities, start new projects. The cost of making a wrong choice is usually lower than the cost of making no choice at all. Design experiments, not commitments. Instead of committing to major changes immediately, design small experiments that let you test direction without huge risk. Freelance in a field before changing careers. Take a class before going back to school. Travel somewhere before moving there. Set decision deadlines. Analysis paralysis thrives in open-ended timeframes. Set specific deadlines for making decisions. "I'll research for 2 weeks, then choose," is much more effective than "I'll decide when I have enough information." Embrace iteration. Plan to adjust course. Instead of trying to make one perfect decision, plan to make one good decision and improve it through experience. This removes the pressure for initial perfection. Sarah applied this when she was trying to decide between 2 seemingly equal job offers. Instead of spending weeks analyzing every detail of each opportunity, Sarah asked herself which role aligned better with her core values and which direction felt more energizing when she imagined herself in it. One role offered more money but less flexibility. The other offered more growth potential but required relocation. On paper, they were equally good choices. But when Sarah focused on alignment instead of analysis, the choice became clear. She valued autonomy and learning over security and comfort. The growth-focused role, despite the challenges, aligned better with who she wanted to become. 3 years later, Sarah had been promoted twice and was leading projects she never could have imagined when she made the choice. The role had evolved in directions that her original analysis couldn't have predicted, but her values-based decision had positioned her for opportunities that matched what mattered most to her. The commitment clarifies strategy. Here's what most women don't understand about decision-making. Commitment creates clarity, not the other way around. When you're trying to choose between multiple options, everything looks equally viable or equally risky. But when you commit to one direction, you start seeing opportunities and challenges that weren't visible before. Commitment doesn't just change your actions, it changes your perception. You notice different information, connect with different people, and see possibilities that only emerge when you're moving in a specific direction. The course. Correction skill. The ability to adjust direction based on new information is much more valuable than the ability to predict the future accurately. Regular direction check-ins. Monthly assess whether your current path still aligns with your values and vision. Directions can evolve as you learn more about yourself and your circumstances. Embrace strategic pivots. When you discover that your current direction isn't serving you, changing course is wisdom, not failure. The key is making conscious choices about when and how to pivot rather than drifting without intention. Learn from each direction. Every path teaches you something valuable, even if it's not the path you stay on long term. The experience you gain from moving in any aligned direction builds skills and clarity that serve you wherever you go next. Most women overestimate the risk of choosing wrong and underestimate the cost of not choosing at all. The biggest risk isn't making an imperfect decision. The biggest risk is spending so much time trying to make the perfect decision that you never make any decision. Your life is happening now, not after you figure everything out. Choose your direction. Start walking. Adjust as you learn. Movement creates clarity. Direction creates opportunity. Action creates answers. The perfect plan isn't coming, but the perfect moment to start is right now. Deliver the life you're growing toward. Chapter 8. Live like the person you're becoming. Integration and identity shift. Remember that autopilot life? The one where every day blended into the next, where you were busy but not fulfilled, moving but not progressing. That version of you was trying to optimize a life that fundamentally didn't serve her. She was managing symptoms instead of addressing causes, perfecting routines instead of questioning directions, fixing surface problems instead of reconstructing foundations. She wasn't broken, she was just living someone else's blueprint. Today, you wake up in a life that actually fits. Not perfect, you're still human, still growing, still learning, but aligned. The goals you're pursuing actually matter to you. The boundaries you've set actually protect your peace. The energy you're managing actually serves your authentic self. You've stopped trying to improve your way out of the wrong life and started building the right one. Your transformation timeline. Month 1-2, Mental Clarity Foundation. Those first weeks were about cutting through the noise in your head, clearing mental clutter that had been accumulating for years, questioning beliefs you'd inherited without choosing them, processing emotions you'd been avoiding, challenging voices that weren't your own. It felt overwhelming at first, like decluttering a house that's been filled with other people's stuff for decades. But as you cleared the mental space, something remarkable happened. Your authentic voice emerged, quiet at first, then stronger. You started hearing what you actually wanted underneath all the programming about what you should want. Month 3-4, Success Redefinition. This was when you got honest about the ladder you'd been climbing. All those achievements that looked impressive but felt empty. All that energy spent pursuing goals that never belonged to you in the first place. Redefining success felt scary. What if your new definition looked selfish to other people? What if it meant disappointing family, friends, colleagues who were invested in the old version of your achievements? But you discovered something liberating. When success aligns with your authentic values, achievement becomes energizing instead of exhausting. You stopped burnout from climbing the wrong mountain and started sustainable progress up the right one. Month 5/6, strategic release. The hardest part wasn't figuring out what to pursue. It was releasing what no longer served you, that relationship you'd been trying to fix for years, that job you'd been optimizing when you should have been exiting, those commitments you'd made from guilt instead of genuine desire. Release felt like failure until you realized it was wisdom. You weren't giving up. You were freeing energy from situations that couldn't be improved so you could invest it in situations that could thrive. Each release made space for something better, not immediately, but inevitably. Month 7/8, energy sovereignty. This was when you stopped organizing your life around obligations and started designing it around energy. You mapped your natural rhythms and started working with them instead of against them. You identified what drained you versus what recharged you. People initially resisted your energy boundaries. They were used to accessing you whenever convenient for them. But as you protected your energy more strategically, something unexpected happened. You had more to give, not less. Better boundaries created better relationships. Month 9/10, authentic boundaries. The boundary work deepened from energy management to identity protection. You started saying no to things that didn't align with who you were becoming. You stopped feeling guilty about protecting your peace. You realized that self-respect wasn't selfish. It was the foundation of every healthy relationship you'd ever have. Boundaries didn't push away healthy connections. They attracted them. People who respected your limits were people worth building relationships with. Month 11/12, aligned daily structure. Your routine stopped being about productivity and started being about identity. Instead of optimizing for efficiency, you designed for alignment. Your daily structure became the delivery system for the life you wanted to live. Morning practices that grounded you instead of rushed you. Work rhythms that honored your natural energy instead of forcing artificial schedules. Evening routines that replenished you for tomorrow instead of just collapsing from today. Year 2, direction-based living. You stopped trying to plan perfect outcomes and started moving in aligned directions. Decisions became easier because you were choosing from clear values instead of inherited programming. You embraced course correction as wisdom rather than failure. You realized that clarity comes from action, not from thinking. Movement creates opportunities that perfect planning never could. The identity integration. The most profound shift wasn't in what you achieved. It was in who you became. You became someone who trusts her own voice instead of constantly seeking external validation. Someone who honors her energy instead of depleting it for other people's convenience. Someone who protects her peace instead of absorbing everyone else's chaos. You became someone who makes decisions from alignment instead of obligation, who sets boundaries from self-respect instead of people-pleasing, who creates change through strategic action instead of wishful thinking. Most importantly, you became someone who designs her life intentionally instead of just reacting to whatever happens to her. Your new reality. Monday morning, 1 year later. You wake up naturally in a bedroom that feels like sanctuary instead of just a place to collapse. Your phone stays in another room while you ease into consciousness with intention instead of immediately flooding your mind with other people's priorities. Your morning practice, whether it's meditation, journaling, movement, or simply sitting in silence, grounds you in your own energy before you engage with the world. This isn't about being perfect or spiritual. It's about starting your day as yourself instead of as a reaction to everyone else's needs. The work you do engages you instead of drains you, not because it's easy, but because it aligns with your strengths and values. You've either transformed your current situation to better match who you are, or you've moved to something that does. The people in your life respect your boundaries because you've taught them how to treat you through consistent self-respect. The relationships that couldn't survive your growth were relationships that were never truly supporting you anyway. Your evenings include space for activities that replenish you instead of just obligations that deplete you. You've learned to say no to things that don't serve your growth and yes to things that do. You go to sleep satisfied instead of exhausted, not because every day is perfect, but because every day reflects your authentic choices instead of automatic reactions. The ongoing evolution. This isn't the end of your growth. It's the beginning of conscious growth. You've learned the skills for designing a life that serves you instead of just surviving one that doesn't. You know how to clear mental clutter when it accumulates, how to redefine success as your values evolve, how to release what no longer serves as you outgrow it, how to protect energy as demands increase, how to maintain boundaries as relationships deepen, how to adjust routines as circumstances change, how to choose direction when facing new decisions. You've become the architect of your own experience instead of just a tenant in a life that never quite fit. The ripple effect. When you stop living in reaction mode and start living in creation mode, it affects everyone around you. Your family sees what it looks like to honor yourself while still being loving. Your friends see what it looks like to have boundaries while still being supportive. Your colleagues see what it looks like to be productive while still being sustainable. You become living proof that there's another way to exist, that you don't have to sacrifice yourself to be good, that you can be successful without being exhausted, that you can be accommodating without being depleted. Your authenticity gives other people permission to be authentic. Your boundaries inspire other people to create their own. Your alignment shows other people what's possible when you stop trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for your shape. The integration. You're no longer trying to become someone. You are someone. Someone who lives intentionally, loves authentically, and grows consciously. Someone who creates her reality instead of just surviving it. Someone who has learned that the most radical thing you can do is live as yourself, fully and unapologetically. This is your life now, not someday. Not after you figure everything out, not when conditions improve. Right now, as you are, where you are, with what you have. Welcome home to yourself.